Communication is all about influencing. And the most important lesson that I've learned about communicating is this. Whenever we try to communicate with other people or try to influence other people, we put so much emphasis on trying to influence them. And in doing so, we neglect to influence the most important person of all, ourselves. Influencing ourselves is the start of the journey of influence. It is at the heart of communication mastery. And there are a number of different aspects of influencing yourself. And let me tell you, it's a tougher job than you can possibly imagine. Well, it is for me at least. So influencing yourself has many different components, but the one I'm going to talk about and the one I'm most interested in is our mindset. And there are many different aspects that encompass our mindset, but the one important one relates to our beliefs. Now, I'm not talking about our religious beliefs or our political orientations. There are two beliefs that I'm interested in talking about, and they are absolutely fundamental to communication and absolutely fundamental to influencing. And they are beliefs that empower you, in other words, can-do beliefs. And they are beliefs that limit you, the beliefs that you say, I just can't do that. The two absolutely fundamental beliefs that I'm interested in talking about is your empowering beliefs and your limiting beliefs. Let me explain what I mean. And to do this, I'm going to use a metaphor. And the metaphor I'm going to use is of an iceberg floating around in the ocean. So I want you to start imagining a large, big iceberg floating around in the ocean. I'm just going to draw it up on the whiteboard behind me, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So one of the things that you'll notice about this iceberg, and probably every other iceberg, is that the majority of the iceberg is under the waterline. And probably only 10 or 15% of the iceberg is visible to the eye, which is above the waterline. And in a way, this iceberg is a bit like human beings. The things that we do and say, in other words, our communication, our non-verbal communication, our body language, the words that we use, the tonality, the volume, all the different components of our voice is all above the surface of the water. It's visible and audible to everyone. So if we consider this as our behavior, or communication. Now, just under the surface of the waterline are our emotions. And our emotions have a direct impact on our behavior. What I mean by that is the way we feel, whether we're feeling happy or sad, excited or frustrated, whatever the emotion we're experiencing, it'll all be represented by the way we communicate. It'll all come out in our behavior. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. So, like all human beings, just like this iceberg, there's so much going on under the surface that isn't visible to the human eye. We can't see emotions, we can just see the corresponding behavior or the communication that's as a result of that emotion. But deeper down, the bottom of the iceberg, is something really crucial. This is where all our beliefs and values are. But I'm just going to talk about beliefs for a moment. Our beliefs have a direct impact on our emotions, on the way we feel, which has a direct impact on our behavior. And we know how important communication is. We know how important communication is to build relationships, to advance our career, to develop our confidence. So in effect, our entire behavior, all our communication will determine the results that we get in life. It's the difference between success and failure. So I talked earlier about two different types of beliefs. Those that are limiting beliefs, in other words, that hold us back, that create barriers, that are problematic, that stop us achieving our goals and aspirations. And there are empowering beliefs. So in order to illustrate what I mean by this, I want to use a situation where we might want to communicate to a particular group. I want to use a situation that might generate some particular emotion that might be problematic for many people. And the example I'm going to use is presenting or public speaking. And I'll explain why in a moment. So if you imagine you are about to deliver a presentation or a talk to a group of people. Now, if you have a limiting belief, a belief that says, you know what, I just can't do this. I'm no good at presenting. If you have a limiting belief, the internal dialogue, you'll know what I mean by internal dialogue if you've read the ebooks. The internal dialogue is very negative. It's very, can't do this, and it really holds you back. So you've got a presentation coming, you don't believe that you can deliver that presentation or be successful. The kinds of emotions now that will generate as you get closer to that presentation will be emotions like nervousness, anxiety, fear, apprehension, a whole range of different emotions. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but if you're going into a presentation and it's an important one where you've got to communicate and influence a large number of people, and you're feeling nervous, scared, frustrated, anxious, there's a good chance that that's going to come out in your communication. People are going to be able to see that you're nervous, that you're frustrated, that you're disappointed, that you're anxious, because your emotions are represented by your communication, your behavior, what's above the surface. Now this is the important bit. So you're feeling nervous and anxious just before the presentation. It comes out in your behavior. It's highly unlikely that you're going to say the right things at the right time to the right people, be able to respond to your audience, react to questions, which means it's highly unlikely that you're going to get the results that you want to get. And this is the important bit. Your limiting belief reinforces itself. I can't believe. You have the belief, generates emotion, produces the behavior, don't get the results that you want to get. You end up with a limiting belief that confirms, and you end up saying, you see, I knew that was going to happen. It's a travesty when that happens. On the other hand, think about an empowering belief. It works exactly the same way. You've got an important presentation coming up, feeling confident, You have a I can do this attitude, and I can do this belief. It's all in your mind, by the way. These are all your thoughts. What kind of emotions do you start feeling? You start feeling confidence. You start feeling totally relaxed, really comfortable, alert, focused. All the kinds of emotions that are going to generate the right behaviors, that are going to ensure that you communicate in the way that you want to communicate, in the way that gets the message across. Your emotions generate the right behaviors, which, by the way, don't guarantee that you get the results that you want to get, but they certainly give you the best possible chance of being successful, whether it is about improving relationships, or whether it's about influencing a particular group or a particular individual. Your behavior will give you the best chance of doing that. What then happens is this. You end up with what's called a virtuous circle. And a virtuous circle means this. You have the belief, it generates the emotions, produces the right behaviors, you get the results, and you end up with an empowering belief that says, I knew I could do that. And from there, anything is possible. Having the right mindset is absolutely critical to be able to influence and communicate effectively. This was the biggest lesson that I ever learned about communication, about influence. I didn't even think it had anything to do with communication, but it's got so much to do with communication, because whatever goes off under the surface influences what goes on above the surface, which is our communication and our capacity to influence. "12 years ago, I started a business in an African country where I couldn't even speak a single word of the language. I had no money to hire the services of a translator. I had to make do with what I had. And in 2 years, I built a business and I built some strong relationships, made some friendships with people that to this day I still have. I even created 30 jobs for people. I couldn't believe it, 30 jobs in a country where I couldn't even speak the local language. And within 6 months of being there, I'd learned the language. I'd learned so much about body language, about communicating with different cultures, with different people. I had relationships at the very top of government in this country. I also had relationships with the people that cleaned and cooked and provided a whole range of different services. I was able to develop a whole range of different relationships and change and vary my communication style, all because I'd learned how to influence myself first. I put to one side my desires and goals to influence everyone else and thought, the first person that I need to influence is myself. I need to somehow have the right mindset to approach my goals and dreams and aspirations. And I needed to learn how to influence my communication. I needed to influence myself. The most powerful lesson I've learned about influencing and communication was this. In order to influence anyone else, the first person that you have to influence is yourself. That is the first rule of communication mastery.